Good morning, students. How are you? I Bharti Raha and today I will teach you English literature. So, Unit 1 in your English literature is nature. As we know that nature is a beautiful creation of God. It is a precious gift to all of us living on earth. Nature provides us with resources like air, water and sunlight. Animals, birds, plants, etc. are also part of the beautiful nature. Now, first lesson in your English literature is The King and the Tree Goddess. As we know that trees provides us wood, flowers, fruits and many other things. So, we should plant more and more trees and should not cut it. Now, there was once a king who longed to build himself a palace more beautiful than any he had seen. He could not make it richer, taller, or stronger without going through a great deal of trouble. So he decided to build something different. The entire palace was to be supported by just one column of wood made from the tallest tree in the kingdom. So once there was a king who wanted to build himself a palace, and that palace should be more beautiful than any he had seen before. He wanted to make it stronger, richer and taller. But it could not be possible without any great trouble or difficulties. So he decided to build something different. Means his palace should be build something different. So he wanted to support the entire palace by just one column of wood made from the tallest tree. In this region there were many trees, pine, oak and spruce, but the tallest and the strongest were the deodar, which means tree of God. The king sent for his prime minister and said, "Send men to my forest and ask them to cut and bring me the tallest deodar they can find." Now, in his kingdom, there were many trees like pine, oak, and spruce. Spruce is also a kind of trees. But among these, the tallest and the strongest tree were the deodar, which meant tree of God. Why it is called tree of God? Because the people of his kingdom worship that God. The king sent his prime minister and said that send men to his forest and bring or cut that tree and bring the tallest deodar they find. But the deodar is a sacred tree, protested the king's daughter. It is used only for building temples. But the king's daughter protested it. Protested means go against it. She said that the deodar is a sacred tree, means the deodar is worshipped by the people. So it is only used to build temples. All the more reason for me to use one, said the king. My palace shall be as magnificent as any temple. Then the king said that there is a reason to use one. But actually, I want my palace shall be extremely beautiful as any temple. Magnificent means extremely beautiful. The Prime Minister sent out 30 men. They soon returned saying that though there were many tall deodars in the kingdom, they could not drag them to the city from the forest. Now, the Prime Minister sent 30 men, but they were failed to bring that the other trees. They said that there were many deodar trees, but they couldn't drag. Drag means pull it. They were failed to pull it and bring them to the city from the forest. When the king heard this, he called his son and said, "Take your horsemen. With the help of your horses, bring me one of the trees." Now, when the king heard this, he called his son and said that you do one thing, you take your horsemen, and with the help of your horses, you bring that the other trees from the forest. The prince rode out with his man but soon returned. He said, "No horse could move such a tree an inch. We have tried oxen too without any success." Now the prince was also failed to do this. When he returned, he said that even no horse could move such a tree an inch. Even the oxen also failed. "Well, then try elephants," said the king. Then the king said that try elephants. Elephants were brought from the plains, but the hills were too steep and the paths too narrow. They had to return to the valley. They tried to bring the elephants from the plains, but actually the hills were too steep. A steep mountain slope, steep, and the paths means the ways were was also too narrow. So they had to return to the valley. "Very well," said the king angrily. "Is one of my own parks you must find me a tree, just as big as any in the forest. Bring it to me within 7 days." Now, after this, the king became angrily. The king became angry. He said that in one of my parks, means in his own parks, there must be a deodar tree, or there must find a tree just as big as any in the forest. He asked them to bring it within 7 days. After much searching, the king's men found a splendid deodar tree growing not far from the palace. It was worshipped by the people of many villages around, because within it lived a goddess, and it was she who gave the tree its great strength, size, and beauty. So, after searching, the king's man, the king's man found a splendid deodar. Splendid means wonderful deodar tree, which was not very far away from the palace. It was near the palace, and that tree was worshipped by many of the pupils, or by people of the villages that was around the kingdom. Why? Because in that tree a god lived, and that god, and by that god only, the tree grows in size and get beauty or strength. When the prime minister and his men had decided that the column for the king's palace must be made from this lofty deodar tree, they came with garlands, candles, and music to pay their respects to the goddess. They also wanted the goddess to leave her abode. And when the ministers of the king heard this, they decided that this is only the tree which uh, by which the column can be made for the king's palace. Why? Because it is a lofty deodar tree. Lofty means heighted or of imposing height. So they became with the garlands, candles, and music to pay their respect to the goddess. They also wanted the goddess to leave her abode. Abode means home. The man of the ministers wanted the man of the ministers wanted the goddess to leave her home. বাকিটা পরে হয়নি যখন